Okay, hello everybody. Gonna do some tactics today. It's been a while since I've done that, and I'd like to get back on it. As you can see, my standard rating has plummeted somewhat. I got to about 1640, and then I don't know, something happened where I just could not get a single problem right. So I've been trying to rebuild that, and it's been kind of slow going. I don't know what happened, but something happened, and it may have just been some sort of overconfidence slash laziness in my calculation that has creeped into it, but it's been not pretty at all. So I am working on sort of rebuilding that, trying to take my time, trying to be very deliberate with every problem, so that I can correct whatever has happened. So I thought maybe putting on video and kind of forcing myself to slow down and be coherent might help. I just solved this problem, which was pretty cool, and it sort of was one of the things that made me want to get on video here, just kind of show off these kinds of little neat mates in case some people have never seen them before. This one wasn't too terribly tough, but this was the position. As you can see, the king is immobilized; it can't move. This bishop is protected by the knight. So what we have here is sort of a little material blindness if you let it happen. In tactics, you can definitely discard the idea of the relative values of the pieces here because of checkmate. So in other words, normally you wouldn't want to take the bishop because it's far less valuable than the pieces taking it that are going to be recaptured. But here it's fantastic to do that because it achieves the one thing that needs to happen in this position to win, which is you need to get check on the king safely. Since the king can't move, just checking him wins. So if you can learn that that is the most important thing in the game, even more important than material, then these mates become easy. If you suffer from the blindness that comes about by valuing so much material, then material so much, I should say, then these problems become tough. But I didn't have too much trouble finding that, although I did look elsewhere first. Okay, so we're going to continue here. My rating is 1577.6. Okay, so I'm trying to be deliberate here. White's down some pretty significant material. It looks like a piece and probably two pawns. Yeah, two pawns. Uh, Black is severely underdeveloped, and we have many possible ways of attacking that as white. One would be a mate simply on c8, just unassisted. Uh, attacking the king and the two squares that it can escape to would be good for white. Another thing that we have is the D file completely cut off. So as of right now, any check at all is lethal. So what we're looking at, when I look at right away, is trying to get the queen to a4 to check. Now there's two problems with that. Well, maybe just one. There's a couple of problems, potential problems. One is that b5 blocks, but white can just take that, so that's not a big deal. But queen c6 is a big deal. So let's go queen a4. Then we're going to analyze the line queen c6 in response. If we play queen a8, then black can no longer interpose. So the answer to this problem should be queen a4, queen c6, queen a8, followed by queen c8 desperation block, and queen takes c8 checkmate. I don't think there's any other potential roadblocks to this solution here other than maybe just throwing in b5 for just to delay it by a move. Some engines value that, but it doesn't really matter too much. See what I mean? So, okay, actually, this is a significant branching point. Do we just go queen a8 here? Yeah, it looks like queen a8 here accomplishes all our hopes and dreams here. Okay, good. Yeah, I just failed to completely really look to make sure everything still worked there. Of course it does, but I didn't look ahead of time. All right, good. So back up to 1580. All right, in this position we're playing black. We're going to analyze the position before we do anything. Material looks to be even for minor pieces. For pawns or 6 for each. Okay, so we have some significant air around the white king. We don't have as much around our king, so that's good. We've got bishops, but the position is fairly closed up. Okay, so looking at specific tactical things, we have a check on h4 with the bishop. We have the white bishop under attack on b2 by the queen. None of our pieces are under attack. We don't really seem to have very much danger to our pieces here, so we may be able to play semi-quiet moves here. Okay, so the very first thing to do in this kind of a situation, for me, is to look at checks. I mean, I'm going to look at bishop h4 first, and I'm not really expecting anything to come of it, but perhaps something does. If we play bishop h4 here, is there a follow-up check? Or does white's reaction to bishop h4 cause any potential weakening things to happen? It doesn't look like it to me. It looks like white could simply play bishop g2, which would be a self-pin on the pawn on f3, but it's protected right now, so and that's just one possible move. It looks like white could make any number of moves. So bishop h4, we'll keep that in our back pocket for some future potential moves. So as far as disconnected pieces for white, and it's good to analyze what I call disconnected pieces or unprotected pieces. For instance, the knight on d1 doesn't have anything protecting it. If I were to just take it with something, then white couldn't take back on that square. Comparing that with the bishop on b2, if I were to take the bishop on b2 with something, for instance right now the queen, then the knight could recapture on b2. So that's a protected piece. That's an unprotected piece. We've got to see if we can find some way of taking advantage of that. For instance, simply attacking it, let's say bishop a4, would cause white to either lose the piece or react to it somehow. And, looking at it, white doesn't have a whole lot of options for moving the knight, just to c3. So, one potential line of thinking that we could go down is bishop a4 attacking the knight, it moves away, and then bishop takes b2. Not queen takes b2, sorry. But that's not the only way white has to react to bishop a4. We could play bishop a4, queen e2, for instance. So I don't think that line quite works. And there's a number of squares that the white queen could move to protect the bishop as well. So I don't know that that bishop is going to be the problem, removing the defender. I don't think that's going to be the solution. I mean, and it could be, but I don't see it yet. Well, you know what? That's actually, I'm actually thinking about this wrong. If I do play bishop a4, that's a big problem, because even if, say, queen e2, defending both the bishop another time and the knight, then if I take the knight, the queen has to capture it, or I just win the knight. And what I've done is removed both the knight defending the bishop, and then the queen has moved away from defending the bishop, so the bishop will hang. So this is an important idea here, capturing the defender, and I was thinking about it all wrong. I think bishop a4 is the solution. The line will be bishop a4, who knows what, but the bishop can't move out of attack of the queen, and at the same time add a defender to the knight. So that's why bishop a4 wins. Alright, so in this line we take the knight, queen will recapture, and then we take the bishop. Now looking at checks thrown in between, that's obviously just going to lose the queen, so let's go ahead and take here. Alright, that problem was correct. It took me a lot longer to solve that than I'd like, but I am trying to take my time, and also maybe you do a little teaching in some of these in case some people that don't understand some of the things I'm saying are watching. Maybe go a little slower. Alright, so we're playing white here. There's an immediate tactic. Well, no, there's not actually. Never mind. I looked at that wrong. Okay, we're playing. I was actually looking at the wrong color. White has a lot of air around the king, has a big problem with this pawn being so far advanced, it looks like. Black has a lot of air around the king. It's sort of a end game kind of a position here, so that's not going to be as important, although it can be. white has an extra piece, but black has two extra pawns and this advanced pawn. So, you know, this is probably a pretty dynamic position. We're going to have to be careful. Playing as white. I'm going to first look at checks, like rook d8. I think if rook d8, then king f7 is forced. Rook d8, king f7. And we have a fork coming up there on d6. Right, so rook d8, knight d6 check after the king moves to f7. Now the king can move here, attacking the rook. So what I can do is go knight takes, and then if the king takes the rook, I take the knight, and then pawn takes, bishop takes, and I'm ahead material. So I think that's the answer. I'm going to go rook d8, knight d6, knight takes rook. Okay, it doesn't like that move as completely the best. Why? Why? Would it be just because I can recheck over at f5, maybe? No, that doesn't make any sense. What is better than taking the rook here? Oh, the bishop check? Yeah, the bishop check on g5. Well, maybe. Yeah, is it like mate, maybe? It's not quite mate. So, bishop takes g5, king is going to move to e6. Which is away from the rook. So that's good. Okay, so now we just take the knight, or take the rook. Alright, very good. Okay, so it's a little tricky. There's a few little bumps in the road on that one, but not too bad. Alright, so we're up to 1585. We're well on the road to recovery. I'll consider recovery happening when we get to 1600. Okay, we are playing black here. We are up in exchange, but probably for at least one pawn. It looks like 4 pawns for black, 5 pawns for white, and we're up the exchange for black. So the exchange for a pawn. White looks pretty... both sides actually look pretty disconnected and not unorganized. We'll call it unorganized. So we need to find a way to win some material for black. Okay, so the first thing that jumps out here is that white's king is smothered, and we don't have a knight to take advantage of that. White has a weak back rank, which right now this bishop is kind of semi-protecting. However, something like rook e8 jumps out at me, and white has no real way to stop black from playing rook e1 next move. And if black can play rook e1, that's going to pin that bishop. So here's the line. Rook e8. Bishop has to move. There's no real way to protect it. So say the bishop moves to... let's just put it out of the way for now. c4. We'll see if there's a better square in a minute. Bishop c4. Rook e1. Now here, I would say, yeah, white would play like h3 or something like that. But bishop d4 at that point is going to win the bishop because the bishop can't move. So that's my line. I said I was going to look to see if there's a better place to put this bishop, but there's not. There's just not. So this is the move. That's something I didn't consider, isn't it? Okay. What do I do about that? I mean, it looks like I just am going to have to play bishop e7. And we'll have the same problem, I think. This looks fine. Oh, king g7 should have just moved. Well, phooey. Yeah, I screwed that one up. I should have. I didn't take my time. I just overlooked bishop takes c5. That's what happened. And that's one of my big problems in tactics, even over the board, playing in games, is I overlook a certain reply. I'm not as thorough. So, yeah. Okay, let's just go on. I mean, I see completely what I did. Alright, white. We are in some distress here on the king side. Black's king looks pretty safe, but it has all sorts of bishops and queens pointing at it. How about material? 3 minor pieces and 2 rooks. Black has 3 minor pieces and 2 rooks. Pawns, we have 6 each, so material is actually even here. Even though it looks like all of black's material is inside of my king side over here. Alright, so hanging pieces. Black's bishop, I'm sorry, black's, what is that thing? Knight is actually hanging right here. We could just take it with the queen. And we'd get skewered, but I think it still would win material, right? So is that maybe the solution? No, because we have that tactic on f7 hanging up there, don't we? Like, bishop takes f7, rook takes... Yeah, that's all it is. I don't even have to take that knight. I'm just going to win the game on f7 here, because there's going to be a pin. Bishop takes f7, rook takes f7, rook e8 should be checkmate. No, it's not. I'm sorry, that's not pinned. Rook f8, and then queen f8 is checkmate. So that's the line, for sure. Oh, don't tell me. What? Yeah, I did that before. I get this mixed up. I had the idea and I just goofed up. I've seen this like exact problem, and I did the same thing last time, which is I forgot that the queen takes there. I mean, I know what's wrong. Let me just show you. I'm going to end the video after this because that's kind of frustrating, and I'm just like right back where I started, rating wise. So I'm just going to end after this. But I do want to show you what in case you don't know, which I'm sure most of you will go, no, you idiot, I know why that doesn't work. Bishop f7 doesn't work because of king h8. And now what do I do? Right. So I suppose I'll probably just do that. I was going to lose the piece. Yeah. So here's the problem. That's why I didn't get the answer, and it's nicely avoided in the solution by just taking here. And when he takes back, the rook is pinned, so it's a back rank mate. So yes, I screwed it up, and there's really no reason for me to have screwed that up other than I rushed. And so I don't have any excuse, but I'm back to 1577, which is pretty much where I started the video. But you know, it's just a little bit of sloppy thinking that I'm trying to work through right now. So I'm going to keep trying to work through it, and maybe it'll go away. Well, that's all for this one, and I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching.